Hello everyone and welcome to Random Gaming Ramblings, the channel where I ramble about random gaming stuff. It's pretty self-explanatory actually. For today, I thought I might give one of those WatchMojo-style videos a go, so I'll be talking about 7 of the most underrated protagonists in gaming. Just stressing this out again, this is my opinion, it's not hard science based on data or anything, so feel free to disagree or mention other Karens down in the comments. Now, let's just move on to these poor souls who most gamers hate or don't even remember anymore, presented to you in chronological order by the release date of their respective games. Here we go. Starting out, we have the protagonist of one of the most divisive entries in Final Fantasy history, Squall Leonhardt. Final Fantasy VIII is mostly criticized for its puzzling mechanics, like junctioning or the draw system for magic. However, Squall also takes his fair share of criticism for the game's alleged failure in the eyes of its critics, who see him as nothing more than a whiny emo kid. Well, I'm here to tell you that this reading of the character is extremely flawed. Squall is actually a deeply fleshed out, complicated and complex whiny emo kid. He's probably my favorite depiction of an introvert in gaming, something that could only really be accomplished because Final Fantasy VIII is a text-based adventure without any voice acting. We get to read every thought passing through Squall's head. So, while the rest of the characters in the game think he's a blasé asshole, most of the time, we know how insecure he is and how turbulent his mind can be. Squall might be spewing out his classic whatever, or let's just go lines to the other characters after they just pour their hearts out, but we, the player, get to know what he's thinking when saying these one-liners. We get to know the inner psyche of a teenage kid who has no idea what he's doing, and is trying to lead an entire organization without letting others know how scared he actually is. I feel like people who don't like Squall just take him at face value, you know, they see this Cloud bootleg with a leather jacket trying to be edgy and cool, without really considering the character's rich inner world and how he's much more than that. If this is you, I recommend trying the game out again. Your perspective will probably have changed with age, because I know mine sure did, and now I appreciate the character even more than I did when I originally played 8. While Squall is in this list because he's got lots of haters, I'm adding Nico here because I feel like he's been forgotten, not only by most gamers but by Rockstar themselves, who don't seem to give a rat's ass about GTA 4. While GTA 5 is constantly getting remastered and the old PS2 titles can now be easily found in that recent collection, and in most gamers' nightmares, GTA 4 is stuck in dead consoles, or, you know, PCs. But I don't know about you, playing GTA on a computer just seems wrong. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, I don't know. Anyway, even those who remember the game probably only remember the brown open world and your annoying cousin harassing you because he wants to go bowling. Very few people actually remember Nico fondly in the same way they remember, say, CJ or Trevor. And I get it. Rockstar usually has really well-written characters, so there's nothing wrong with liking these bigger-than-life personalities more. CJ is really charismatic and Trevor is, well, fucking insane. But there's something about Nico that draws me in and makes him more compelling to me than the rest of the GTA protagonists. He is troubled and has trauma, but these things don't seem to eat him up. He isn't haunted by the violence he commits, but he also doesn't revel in murdering a whole platoon in every mission. Violence is just a fact of life for Nico. He has experienced so much of it throughout his life that he can now turn a switch on and off in his brain, it seems. He is believably kind to people in need in one moment, and is absolutely believable as your typical GTA murdering machine in the next. And he doesn't look like a psychopath because of this. It feels like this is a defense mechanism of sorts. That's a good opportunity to compare Nico and Trevor actually, because Trevor is a psychopath. A fun-loving one, but one nonetheless. When Trevor murders and tortures people, he looks like a sociopathic kid full of glee killing ants with a magnifying glass just to see what happens. And when Trevor takes a liking to someone like Wade's cousin or that mob wife, you feel like they are in grave danger, because they are. Trevor is fucking insane. Nico isn't. He is a neurotypical guy who's grown up surrounded by violence and because of his thick skin hasn't really been broken by this, which makes him absolutely fascinating. And it's a pity more people don't notice it. But hey, I feel like the gaming community is slowly coming around to the idea that Nico is good actually. Yahtzee over at The Escapist has shared his love for the character, as did GameSpot. Maybe if a decent GTA 4 remaster finally happens, Nico will get the mainstream love he deserves. Akiyama is in a weird spot when it comes to this list, because he was actually pretty well received by fans when he first appeared in Yakuza 4. And I'll tell you, he did something I thought was impossible. He made me see that Yakuza did not need Kazuma Kiryu to be Yakuza. He didn't even need to focus on the Yakuza to be Yakuza. 4 does something extremely bold. Not only do you have 4 playable protagonists, but Kiryu, the only returning character, is actually the last one you get to play as the game opens with Akiyama in his benevolent credit company, Sky Finance. Because just like Kiryu is a murdering gangster who actually does not murder people, Akiyama is a loan shark with a heart of gold. Oh. But seriously, his carefree attitude, crappy memory, and his dynamic with Hana, his neurotic assistant, instantly won me over. Akiyama's tests to see if he'll take a client in or not are also engaging, and his long talk with Lily, a central character for the game's overarching plot, is a masterclass in dialogue writing and setting up a noir mood. Akiyama's chapters were the only ones in the game in which I felt fully immersed and didn't really miss Kiryu. I mean, Saijima's story has its moments, but the prison sections go on forever, and Tanimura, I honestly barely remember the poor thing. Akiyama was the best new element in Yakuza 4, but not being related to the Yakuza himself, he doesn't really get much to do after 4. He is playable in 5, sharing screen time with Haruka, and well, he does fuck all, other than wipe the floor with his sassy grandma in a sick dance battle. This is a greedy crime drama, I swear. Well, Akiyama returned in 6, but he wasn't playable anymore and hasn't been seen since. And I get it, he's not related to the Tojo clan in any capacity. He doesn't belong. However, that doesn't mean he should just completely disappear from the franchise. I actually thought he would pop up in Judgment as a side character to help Yagami out in a case, or even in a more involved way as an investor for his detective agency. But nope. A truly wasted character by RGG, and now, 6 years after he was last seen, most fans probably don't care about him anymore as well. A pity. Yeesh, this will be a tough one to sell. But I'll start by saying that poor Connor was dealt the worst possible hand ever in Assassin's Creed history. After 3 games in which the suave Ezio Auditore da Firenze built a fanbase as the definitive assassin and the embodiment of the franchise, anyone coming after that would have a hard time. Especially because Ubisoft, in a time when they took more risks, didn't cook up an Ezio 2.0, but went the opposite direction, crafting a quiet introvert without that larger-than-life personality that many were starting to associate with Assassin's Creed. It also didn't help that the game which Connor would lead also presented the, at the time at least, conclusion to the modern-day storyline, which, as you might remember, was bad, and did Desmond also dirty. So yeah, AC3 left a bad taste in many mouths, and Connor bore the brunt of the complaints. The final nail in Connor's coffin was his grandpa, Edward, who helmed the very next title in the franchise and gave fans the charming personality they so dearly missed. And I get not enjoying Connor as much as Edward or Ezio, but the level of animosity I remember seeing online in the early 2010s towards Connor was absolutely uncalled for. Connor wasn't boring or poorly written. On the contrary, if you compare Connor's arc in AC3 with Ezio's in AC2, yes, ignore Brotherhood and Revelations, we're looking at just these characters' first entries here. You will see how much the franchise's writing had improved in just a few years, and how well-rounded Connor is. Sure, you may not find him likable, but boring? Poorly written? That's a no, bro. Look at Connor's life story. As a child, his mom died because of his dad's asshole friends. His village was burned to a crisp. His place in the world is now under threat, and he has to interact with a bunch of people in serious life-or-death situations using a second language. That's not the perfect recipe for a chipper personality, is it? Quite the opposite. Connor, just like Squall and Nico before on this list, is more introspective and doesn't really have an expansive, captivating personality. He is humorless and moody, even bitter at times, but somehow is still caring and gentle, despite the amount of shit he has had to endure. He's an expertly written character with clear motivations, strengths, and flaws. Give him another chance. Lara Croft is a gaming icon, so it feels a little ridiculous to say that she is underrated, but here I'm not talking about the character as a whole, but about the latest iterations seen in the Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal trilogy. And yeah, I know a lot of the vitriol regarding Lara in these games has to do with her breast reduction surgery, because many gamers lack empathy and don't understand how much neck and back pain poor Lara probably felt because of those huge boobs. It's now much easier for her to climb, steal foreign treasure, and slaughter a bunch of mercenaries, that's for sure. However, it wasn't just Lara's appearance that got roasted, but her personality as well. Some people complained about how fragile and scared she was in Tombraider 2013, but that was the point, wasn't it? It was meant to be the origin story of a badass. She was still figuring shit out. And then, there were those who complained about her lack of charisma in both Rise and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, as well as her complete disregard for her own safety and also poor Jonas. And yeah, I totally agree with that. To be honest, I think Lara is actively unlikable in those games. That does not mean she's a crappy character. In fact, I feel like she was far more believable in this version than she had ever been. Think about it. She's a trust fund kid full of daddy issues that's on a rampage, unfazed by all the murdering she's committing because she wants to find some ancient soup bowl or something. She's like Elon Musk, but instead of crushing the mental health of everyone in her path through Twitter, she's crushing people's bones. It makes sense. There's no, what is it called again? Ludonarrative dissonance. That's it, ludonarrative dissonance. Lara is just a giant asshole. And it makes total sense that she's an asshole. Look at what she does. No hate to Nathan Drake, I adore the Uncharted series, but asshole Lara is far more believable as an international criminal stealing treasure than fun-loving Nathan ever was. And there's room for both. There's even room for Indiana Jones to return to gaming, so I just hope that Lara continues in this path. I like playing as a spoiled, sociopathic rich brat once in a while. This one is super recent to me because I only played Life is Strange 2 earlier this year, and the game and its characters absolutely blew me away. So I went online to check how people felt about the narrative and especially about Sean, and well, I found the expected DeviantArt folks and a whole lot of hate. People really don't like this game and don't like Sean whatsoever. I was taken aback by that, because he has easily become one of my favorite gaming protagonists ever. If you are not familiar with the narrative, Sean is a 16-year-old Latino boy living with his 9-year-old brother and single dad in Seattle. After an argument with a neighbor and a police officer goes horribly wrong, Sean gets scared and decides to run away with his brother to his father's homeland, Mexico. And the game is structured as a series of short stories as the brothers run from the police. I was baffled to see how many people online simply dismissed Sean as an idiot, because had he simply gone to the police to explain that everything was a misunderstanding, there wouldn't even be a game to begin with. And yeah, I get this feeling coming from an adult, but a teenage Latino kid involved in the death of a police officer might think differently about things. He might not believe he'll get a fair trial, and he also wants to protect his younger brother in all of this. But even if this initial decision feels dumb and immature, everything that follows is skillfully constructed and absolutely believable. Sean is responsible for his younger brother, but he's also a 16-year-old kid who wants to do teenage things. And the game always presents you with choices to do both of these things, and they all feel genuine. Should Sean go to bed early to make sure his brother is okay and feels safe? Or should he stay up to bond with kids his own age and just maybe get in on some PG-13 action? These are all significant choices, and Sean is written in a way that every single one of them feels reasonable. Writers Jean-Luc Cano and Kristen Devine have done an outstanding job with the dialogue work in the game, and Gonzalo Martin brings Sean to life effortlessly. And since I'm talking about choices, I gotta talk about the choices in the ending. FYI, these aren't spoilers in any way, as these choices are telegraphed to the player way in advance. It's obvious what they are. The kids get to Mexico, or they don't. Each choice with obvious sets of implications. And hey, don't roll your eyes, you. Yes, you. I know, those goddamn choices that matter in gaming mostly boil down to two scenarios. Scenario A, both choices are meaningless, so you can do whatever. Scenario B, you either get to save 1,000 babies and puppies, or you commit fucking genocide because you're just playing evil. Getting two meaningful, nuanced, and logical choices is a rarity. And that's what we got in Life is Strange 2. Anything that you decide to do in the ending of the game feels logical, sensible, sensitive, and true to Sean as a character. When I watched the ending I chose play out, I cried, man. It was such a powerful story, and Sean is such a great kid. I'm still baffled that people didn't really take to him. Oh well, let's continue. We have one more character to go. This one is yet another character from a game that was dragged by reviewers and a lot of gamers upon release. And I get it. Days Gone doesn't feel like a Sony game, you know, prestige gaming and all that. The best way to describe it would be like, what if Ubisoft, on a good day, made The Last of Us? For some, that very description sounds like blasphemy. For others, it will click as something that could be a lot of fun. Even if it's not going to win anything at the Game Awards, the devs won't get to thank Jeff or Sydney and stuff like that. But those who like this type of thing will love the game. I love this game. Granted, I played it in 2020 post-patches, and it still ran like garbage on a PS4, especially the last section of the map. But the hordes, man, I'll never forget those hordes of freakers. Beating that one in that lumber mill especially is one of my proudest gaming moments. And I just realized that I'm gushing about the horde mechanic when I should be talking about the game's protagonist here, goddammit. Deacon St. John, yes, Deacon St. John. That's a ridiculous name, there's no way around that one. But Deke is a great protagonist. Sam Witwer does a great job voicing the character. There is a nuance to his performance and the way he delivers his lines that absolutely sells Deacon St. John. He's meant to be this ruthless biker with a reputation as a badass even prior to the zombie outbreak, but he doesn't really look the part. Despite being a war veteran, Deacon isn't really a badass. It feels like Deacon was absolutely lost in life. He'd seen too much Sons of Anarchy, thought the aesthetics looked rad, and joined the bike gang just because. And now the world has gone to shit, and he has slowly turned into the person he was trying to be, albeit he probably expected this would have happened in better circumstances. Deacon feels like a person who was faking it, hoping that one day he would make it. And he did. He still doesn't enjoy it though. Deacon sounds like a dude who doesn't want to harm others. He will not take pleasure in doing it, but if it comes to it, he'll do it, and do it well. I think that makes him a really interesting, compelling character. He doesn't have the complexity of a Joel or Ellie. But forget The Last of Us. Yeah, Days Gone is a zombie game from Sony, but it's better appreciated if you forget the name of the publisher in the box. If you haven't played Days Gone, you should. Deacon is a cool protagonist, and the game probably doesn't run like shit anymore. Give it a chance. And that's it, everyone. 7 characters who I think deserve more love from gamers at large. Some are hated, some have been forgotten, Some have been forgotten by almost everyone and are hated by those who still somehow remember them. And let me stress this again. If I like Squall, that doesn't mean I think Cloud is shit. If I like Connor, that doesn't mean I hate Ezio. In fact, I actually like Ezio better. I just feel like there's room for different personalities in leading roles. Not every main character needs to be a charismatic extrovert who does well with the ladies. Variety is the spice of life. If you're new to my channel and have enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. It will definitely brighten my day. And that's it, everyone. I'll see you when I see you.